So I'll be in.
All right, Peter,
Okay.
we are recording again. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Luke Angstadt. I am one of the hosts of our channel, The Business of Esoteric Knowledge and Wisdom. I'm also an author. I have a book on Amazon. It's called The Musings of De La Pew. It's a study about the nature. Oh, Peter has it right there.
It's here. I've got it. I've got
Massive.
it from the Amazon, from UPS.
Like the size of War and Peace.
It's a very thick book. Now,
Yeah.
like almost like a Holy Bible or Mark's
Mhm.
Capital, but
Mhm.
better written.
And the book is about, oh, thank you, Peter. But so the book is about the nature of reality, the nature of the universe, human beings, and the relation of all three of those. And Peter, I wanted you, before I discuss the purpose of our channel, I wanted you to make an introduction to our audience as well. Introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Luke. My name is Peter Christian Rosewick, or Pete Chris Rose sometimes, and can be referred to that. And I am the author on Amazon, the fellow artist as Luke is, and the titles of my books that make a series in Amazon are Nikola Tesla, Third Reich and the Extraterrestrials, the Occulture, and the Mythologies of Techno World, and all of them are available and purchasable right now. So click the link below and buy it if you want.
You will see the links for all of our for my book, Peter's book,
and just want to say that within the last month, the last book of those three mentioned, the Mythologies of Techno World, namely, has reached the status of a golden bestseller in Amazon. That's not that
great.
small thing.
That's good news. That's great. That's good news, Peter.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to tell our audience a little bit about the purpose of our channel. Again, our channel is titled The Business of Esoteric Knowledge and Wisdom. And the purpose of our channel is to overcome global tyranny through having an ongoing conversation about hidden knowledge and wisdom that has been intentionally kept from people during the course of the past 6,000 years at least. And the reason that our purpose is to overcome global tyranny is because that is what we are facing right now. I mean, that it's kind of like it's the 900-pound gorilla in the room who's banging on the walls and ready to tear the house down. And people say, okay, we're going to talk about anything but the 900-pound gorilla in the room that is, destroying the house. And more to the point, on March 12th of 2020, everyone who's alive on this planet experienced arguably the most unprecedented event in known human history, and that is that being the lockdown of the world overnight. I will remember it the way I will remember where I was on 9/11. I was at Penn State. I was in college. I remember being in a meteorology class, and the professor came out and said that a plane has struck the World Trade Center. Go home. And
I was in a swimming pool. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Where were you, Peter?
Yeah, I was in a swimming pool
in 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11, so I mean, we remember it. Yeah, and I will remember March 12th of 2020 the same way I remember 9/11. I was in Maui on vacation. And I was staying at a hostel in Waialuku, which is located in central Maui. So I remember exactly where I was. I was preparing a meal, having in the communal area, and that's when I remember there was a basketball player. His name was Rudy Gobert. He was kind of making light of the situation. He was touching the microphones at like a press conference. And next thing I knew, the Masters was canceled. The NCAA basketball tournament was canceled. The NBA season was suspended indefinitely. And next thing you knew, it was one domino after another. Overnight, the entire world was locked down. And why were we locking down the world? Because we were locking down society to save society. Because obviously we had this new thing called the COVID-19, which has proven to be probably the greatest hoax in human history, or one of them. It's on a very short list of being one of the greatest hoaxes in human history. We'll get into that later, and there's no point in flailing our arms and stomping our feet because we all know where that gets us. But again, circling back to the whole purpose of our channel is that having an ongoing civil conversation about hidden knowledge and wisdom, I think, is the best way to combat and overcoming global tyranny. But this whole premise that we are going to lock down society in order to save society, I mean, a moment's reflection. I mean, when just to pause the reflexive lizard brain for 10 seconds, any person who's half awake would realize that the only reason that you lock down society is to destroy society. But nevertheless, it happens. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. I mean, that was the story at first. I mean, I'm sure you remember that, Peter, too. 2 weeks to flatten the curve back in March, and before Easter of 2020, everything's going to be back to normal, and we'll be going about our lives again. In February of 2020, before the lockdown, Tony Fauci says that wearing a cloth mask or wearing any kind of mask is completely, and obviously Tony Fauci, who has 50 years of being this preeminent epidemiologist, says that wearing a mask does absolutely nothing to prevent the transmission of a virus. I mean, surgeons wear it in the surgical theater to prevent whether they sneeze or cough or any kind of phlegm comes up, or if something in the surgery theater splashes up on their face. That's the whole reason of wearing a mask, is maybe for bacterial transmission, but to prevent a viral transmission is laughable. I mean, and the whole, and this may even come from Fauci. I don't know who it came from, but I mean, it's comparable to putting up a chain link fence or wearing a mask to prevent the transmission of a virus. Is like putting up a chain link fence to keep out mosquitoes. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. So we all know this, but I give evidence of the past 2 years to see, I mean, it's almost like if I want to be taller, if I wish I'm 5'10", anybody could be taller. I wish I was taller. I'm gonna cut off my
how
leg.
tall are you, Luke? Sorry, how
I'm
tall are
5'10".
you?
I'm 5'10".
I'm 6'6", I guess. It's 2
Oh, wow,
meters
you're
in
pretty tall then.
European.
Yeah, you're pretty
Because I'm in
tall then.
Europe now, so I
I
measure.
wish, like for example, I wish I was taller. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna cut off my legs, and then I'll be taller. I mean,
maybe you can.
What's that?
Yeah, maybe you can imply those bars, like Chinese do. They're extremely,
Yeah.
small and low, so they can apply those bars in their femurs and fibula bones in order to do the elongate.
I hear you, but I have a better idea, Peter. I mean, you see, why would I do that? Because I have a better idea. I want to be taller. I'm going to cut my legs off, and then I'll be taller. I mean, I guess I'm using this ridiculous example to illustrate how crazy it is to think that in order to save society, we're going to lock down society. The only reason to lock down society is to destroy society. I mean, it's as obvious of a fact that I'm not going to be taller if I cut my legs off. But we talk about what happens with the spirit of fear. This is the spirit of fear. We have reached a level of universal deception and universal insanity. And it's all a byproduct of the spirit of fear, I guess is what I'm getting to. And
sorry, is that universal or global regarding deception?
I know we can say for a certainty that it's global, but
does it come from the universe or from the globe?
I think it does. I mean, we are the universe. We are still the universe having an experience, and oftentimes the micro level mirrors the macro level, and vice versa. So. I mean, I won't be so bold as to say it's a universal thing, but it's certainly a global thing. And I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest the fact that the universe itself is insane. And I guess that's why I think that we could do all the ad hominem attacks under the sun. They will accomplish nothing. I mean, David Icke has been calling people out for 30 years, and here we are. So I think that, I guess what I'm getting back to is that, and this is the basic premise of my book, The Musings of De La Pew, which can be had on Amazon.com, is that at the very heart of existence, there is a schism, whether we call it infinite eternal consciousness, the universe, the big is, whatever the case may be. But this schism it's a breakdown of the very first principle, the very first building block of life. And that is when the universe takes on a vehicle or an avatar to have an experience. And in this case, they are human beings. The very moment that the universe, the big is, the big kahuna, infinite eternal consciousness takes one step out of eternity, there is a breakdown in communication between, the avatars or the vehicles by which infinite eternal consciousness is having an experience in the universe. Call those human beings, any sentient beings. It could be the reptilians, it could be the Greys, it could be the Nordic races. I mean, we're familiar with this, Peter, and some of our audience will be familiar with these other interdimensional extraterrestrials. Some of them won't, but nevertheless,
or they can belong to a race like me and you.
They could, but nevertheless,
an unknown race.
At its essence, there is a breakdown. There was a breakdown of the very first principle. of the universe, and that is that when the universe decides to have an experience, there is a breakdown the moment it takes its first step out of eternity, and from there it becomes pandemonium.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted
Well,
to
not
just,
only
that's just
yeah.
explaining the purpose of our channel, is that the reason that we're talking about trying to overcome, why we want to overcome global tyranny by having an ongoing conversation about hidden knowledge and wisdom that has been intentionally kept from us. It is because we are dealing with global tyranny right now. And I don't think we quite were right on the point with that in our earlier episodes, but that's the whole reason why we're doing this, because we are in the midst of global tyranny right now. We are all, I mean, that is our greatest enemy right now. If there is I mean, that is our enemy, is global tyranny. And that's why we're having these conversations. And that's why we're talking about AI and also, and anyway, I kind of losing my train of thought, but that's why we're talking about AI, and we're talking about we kind of had a segue with Gavin into discussing simulation theory, if we're living in a simulation. But ultimately,
Oh yeah.
we want to understand why could the past 2 years, why are the past 2 years even possible? And, you know, we can attack our politicians, we can attack people who were gullible enough to fall for the idea that after 2 weeks, so we could just lock down the world for 2 weeks and open things up and everything would be safe. But you know, attacking people doesn't accomplish anything. I mean, getting angry at your neighbor or getting angry at whomever, it doesn't accomplish anything. I mean, that's why we're discussing. Well, that's why we're discussing the history, and that's why we're trying to get at the very root of the problem. And I mean, I've already gone over what I believe the root of the problem is, and that there's this schism at the very heart of existence. And I think it's I think it's a breakdown of the very first principle of the universe. And
Yeah.
so Peter, I will throw it over to you again. I think we covered the purpose of our channel, and let's see where we go today.
Okay, regarding the Great Schism, which is described at the very few first pages of your voluminous and great book that I'm very eager to read, right? Yeah, I want to say that bearing in mind the fact that the Great Schism happened and that the atomic molecular level or realm exists, does exist, we have to admit and acknowledge here that it's been necessary for that great as or the mind, don't have to necessarily call it superb. You didn't call it that way. We don't have to deal with that word anyway. That's the great as that everything does belong to for real. But the fact that it's kind of separated, it meant that the physical reality and the constitutional particles that it's consisted of are on equal measure a necessity of life, as well as the original part of it is.
I agree with you, Peter. So it's almost like
kind of,
in order for there to be any kind of variety of life, we need this push and pull of chaos and order.
So if we kind of observe, in a planimetrical manner of observation, if we observe those two planes or realms of existence, let's say there are two of them, let's reduce it to two. But who knows what kind of the universes or the possibilities of the possible universes or the parallel realms exist beyond the concept of what is comprehensible to us in this moment. But let's leave that to another time and for another session. But let's say that if we observe those two are just like Alice through the looking glass. There are two sides of the mirror. So they kind of correspond to each other, and they're equally a necessity of that great as's or great mind's self-expression, the inner urge to create. And we've concluded that on the last sessions. Okay, that's awesome. Let's say not only humans, you said humans, reptilians.
I think any sentient being that's having an experience,
any form of life.
there's always
we said that at the beginning. It
Yeah,
could be
there's
a
never ending
slug.
conflict.
Yeah, it could be a slug or a
Mhm.
great
It could be anything. It could
blue
be an
shark
amoeba,
or
a
a blue
trilobite,
whale
you name it. Yeah.
or an ant. It can
Right.
be anything. Those can be even the non-carbon based life forms
Mhm.
that we are just getting into being aware of.
Mhm.
That probably we have to acknowledge the possibility of their existence, because we're just speaking mostly when humans speak about the universe as containing habitable solar systems and planetary realms. The habitable zones. They mostly, okay. They changed their opinions because 100 years ago we didn't even have Hubble telescope. All right, we couldn't even figure out what's behind our closest neighborhood, meaning our own nose.
Mhm.
But as well as we were expanding our knowledge, uh, we had the spectral photometric systems right now, and so on. These, interferometry and so on. So we're kind of able to expand widely and vastly our knowledge, and our everything is about the awareness.
Mhm.
Everything is about the awareness. I've concluded, and it's not my discovery, but I've concluded that for myself and you for yourself
Oh
too,
yeah. Yeah.
that the whole science that has been synthesized in the form of books that I don't need anymore. I personally love books, and you too, but I don't need any book because I have the internet right now.
Mhm.
Although I have a huge library ever growing,
Mhm.
and the whole science that has been synthesized is the awareness,
Mhm.
written and translated into the form of words of a particular idea. So we are always first expanding our own awareness and consciousness of the particular things in their existence, and then later on we kind of turn it into the form of books with unorganized knowledge, which is ever growing. So for example, 100 years ago, as a debris, as a remnant of the materialistic concept, people, humans, and the Terra planet were strictly denying anything which would refer to an immaterial or kind of spiritual uh, way of the origins of life. But now we're doing what? We are scientifically approving and proving the existence of the NDE experiences, right? We are getting into the concept of reincarnating
Mhm.
as scientifically approved. Some did, but it's mostly globally approved when it's globally accepted by the minds of the majority. Okay, but for some, everything could remain uh, a thing to deny or a mystery, because somebody, yeah, I've concluded, and you did too, that some minds, some humans are not even capable to perceive certain amount of information.
Mhm.
So it's the same like you talk about the global conspiracy practice. It's not a
Mhm.
theory, it's practice, of
Oh,
course.
it's a
You said the
practice. Sure.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I have some acquaintances from certain intelligence services who say the same. It's not a theory, it's practice, because it's happening. So some people,
You know where
I
that phrase, where the phrase conspiracy theorist originated. That originated, but the CIA invented the phrase
of
conspiracy
course,
theorist in the 1960s
because
after
yeah,
JFK was assassinated and all the people that
due
that
due to
rejected
the
the war
obvious
information.
reasons,
Yeah.
due to the obvious
Oh,
reasons.
for all the obvious reasons under the sun. So they invited this term conspiracy theorist to demonize and to ridicule and mock and dismiss somebody out of hand who questions
Yeah,
the official narrative. But yeah.
yeah. I want to say it asked. I was seeing, not only over this brief period of time that we
Mhm.
called the lockdown period, the
Mhm.
closing period, or the captivity period, let's
Sure.
say. I've been seeing humans whose intelligence was measuring, estimating to way up to 160 IQ
Mhm.
units. That's approximately my
Mhm.
intelligence measured in Mensa. It doesn't matter. You know, but it's not a parameter for success, definitely, as you know. But even the smartest amongst them were not even capable to comprehend the possibility of that certain group was imposing their own agenda
Oh yeah.
upon the other ones by mediation of the media and by useful tools. You know,
And the question that they ask themselves is that they say to themselves, no one can be lying on this kind of scale. I mean, people tell little lies, and most people tell little lies during the course of their days and their lives. But this idea that somebody would tell a lie on this scale, you know, that they would come to this idea that there is a virus that is going to kill everyone if we don't lock down the world. I mean, if we don't destroy people's psyche, if we don't scare the living shit out of them, which we know we know what fear, stress, and anxiety does to the immune system. Of course, it decimates the immune system. So what we're doing is we do the grossest act that does the most harm to people, is locking down society, telling people that they can't leave their homes until further notice. And again, it's just going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Well, we see what 2 weeks to flatten the curve back in March of 2020 has turned into. But nevertheless, I digress. But this idea that we are going to lock down society and scare the living shit out of people in order to save them. I mean, this degree of deception and an inversion and just flat out lying. Most people, the average person can't conceive of another human being or anyone to be that dishonest, to tell a whopper like that. So they say to themselves, it must be essentially true. I mean, sure, people are manipulating and there's corruption and people are corrupt and people are going to try and take advantage of it, but the basic story has to be true. There is a virus that's going to kill us all if we don't all hunker down in our basements and stay home until the government tells us that we can leave our homes again. People can't even conceive that somebody would lie on that kind of scale. So then they dismiss it out of hand. Any alternative to the fact that, well, the basic story is basically true, right? So we have to lock down the world and we have to all stay home and we have to shit ourselves with fear until the government tells us that we can leave our homes again. The basic premise is true. And then underneath the basic premise, sure, there's uncertainty and there are opportunists looking to take advantage of the situation. But the essential story is true. So goes the thinking of most people. Most very, very bright people think that too. But they can't, like to your point, they can't conceive that the very basic premise is, to borrow a phrase of a very good friend of mine, Don, is bull feathers. It's complete bull feathers.
Yeah.
They can't even wrap their heads around that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm having a let's say a larger exposure just to make a continuation of yours.
Sure.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I want to refer to Nietzsche, you know, and to his famous deed, the opus, which is called Also sprach Zarathustra, or the So Spoke Zarathustra, one of our favorite ones, that's for sure. That's from the juvenile period that remained over here. And we have to remind, you know, regarding that hoax and the ability to make a hoax in front of the eyes of many, you know, in order to deceive the people easily and zealously. Which I just want to make a brief reminder on Zarathustra's words to a snake after he's been beaten by her. He said, "You've beat me, but that's because it was existing in your nature." And that's smart. He was a poet. And just this is maybe the moment to introduce a totally new moment, and this is the way that the esoterics think. And that the whole thing was actually, and I want to have our audience prepared for the news. So get prepared for the news. Okay. Okay, so I've got the attention of the audience.
Right? Yeah, my attention. I hope you have the audience too. Yeah.
Okay. So this was all a great sucking of the energy that this was great sucking of people's energies, like the energetic vampires do.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah.
I'm not doing that right now because I'm giving my energy to you and to the audience as well. So I'm not that kind of vampire, you know. But later on, I'll be sucking blood when we close up this session.
Let me know.
I'm joking, of course. Yeah, I'm joking. No, but this was a sucking of energy, because if the people, if any individual is constantly asking himself or herself, why is this happening to me and to the society? What is this all about?
Yeah.
What is that supposed to mean? That means that the person's energy, the vital energies, is leaking out, and it's going towards where is it going? It's going. Where does it go? It goes towards the direction of the one who's put the whole situation, who stepped the fire, right? So, and that was one of the two momentums, and the second one, it was very profitable. It was awesomely lucrative as a business, because just imagine me and you selling 1 billion face masks.
Oh yeah.
So they have gained two ways of the energies, the vital energy of the humans. Some people were freaking out, some even committed suicide. Some people were jumping in a hysterical, state of mind through the windows, just like in Orson Welles.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Radio emission.
War of the Worlds. Yeah.
And that's why I made a parallel with that emission 2 years ago. And a stupid one asked me, what was the possible connection, the relation between the two situations? And I said, it's very obvious, although not to you. But I never offend people nor sell them. Nobody is about to be blamed for his own limits, because even the stupidity belongs to the laws of nature.
It does. Yes, it does. Yes.
Like the gravity or entropy. I think it's one of the ways of expression of the entropy, but that's for another subject. Like gravity is, but it's also necessary sometimes for somebody. So I said, okay, I made a parallel with Orson Welles' artwork, because he was turning an art form into life, and people believed in that because they were induced to do. They were kind of hypnotized to believe in that. And this is an opposite stuff. They were making, I'm saying there, we'll expose later who they were. They were making art of our lives. They were taking our lives in order to make an art form of that. They were making a movie. So this kind of reverse process, because Marcel Duchamp, Marcel Duchamp, some would say he wasn't great. Some would say he was a great Dada founder. Of course, those guys who was making wheels, and portraits, and it was great in a way. Who did the mustache? Who put the mustache onto the Mona Lisa face? He said, "L'art, c'est la vie. L'art est la vie. Art is life." But they were doing another reverse process. Instead, they were making art of our lives. So this is why I made a comparison with Orson Welles' situation. And I want to say that the masks were utterly profitable for those who invented that. And there are this is the secret, and not anymore a secret, because they don't need to be that hidden. The governments. Let's say that you and I are smart enough to.
It's also the wearing of the mask is a satanic ritual being played out in public too. I mean, the 6 feet.
Let's say, yeah. Let's say, but the prophet was the main reason, and sucking the energy. And nonetheless, let's not forget that a hole on each single mask is 100,000 times bigger than the diameter or radius of any virus. So who's the stupid guy inside?
Exactly. Yeah. Mhm.
You cannot prevent oneself from getting polluted and contagious by putting a mask onto his
Mhm.
faces. So, okay, let's make it clear. Uh, it's enough if you and I are
But
smart
still,
enough.
but the thing is, Peter, 99% of the world fell for it, right? They fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And why did they fall for it? It comes from the spirit of fear and all their behavior, all the consequential behaviors and everything that happened as a
Okay,
consequence
but
of that.
there
It's
is,
a function of fear. And you mentioned
yeah,
this
the function of
in
fear.
prior podcasts as well, is that it's a function of
And
fear. And when people are
yeah,
consumed by fear, they will do anything. I mean, there's no depth to their irrationality. I mean, there's no depth to how insane they can behave if they're possessed by the spirit of fear. And I think that's what we're seeing, at least on a global
and
scale right now, is this possession by fear itself.
that's exact.
Yeah.
And there is also one more reason worthy of mentioning, nonetheless, and that is the people's utter immaturity.
Mm-hmm.
People are the vast majority of the humans, of the individuals on this planet are horrifically infantile
Absolutely, they are.
and childish.
Mm-hmm.
I was observing the humans in this city, as well as in Cleveland, Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as in Germany
Mm-hmm.
or in Italy. And let's say that their childishness and even stupidity in many cases
Mm-hmm.
varies, and even it depends on the economic situation.
Mm-hmm.
Those ones who were struggling, whose salaries or wages were small, were uh, developing different way of thinking, and thus different intelligence
Yeah.
system and different intelligence,
Yeah,
because they had
you
to
can't rule out
survive.
the socioeconomic
Yeah,
impact.
they
You're
had to
absolutely
rely on themselves solely.
right.
And those people, like in Norway, they were, I'm not saying that they were more stupid, but their intelligence was different. But I'm saying that as you watch this, as you observe the small children, the offspring,
Mhm.
okay, they are smart, but they are easy to be corrupted.
Mhm.
They are easy to swallow any lie if you know how to present them. So I
Mhm.
was kind of have to present them a lie properly.
Mhm.
So I was kind of watching humans throughout various stages of their growth, and you have an adolescent, you have humans in their full strength, like you or me, people in their 40s or around,
Mhm.
and everything way up to 50 and 60 and so on, and later on they become senile, they become
Mhm.
demented.
Mhm.
We were overcome those issues. I'm going to explain
Mhm.
why I do believe in overcoming of aging, illness, and death. But uh, the problem is that the most of the humans remain children,
They do.
because
They do.
it's very easy to impose a deliberate lie and to inject it into their minds in the form of a mass hypnosis,
Mhm.
hypnotic process, and to make them believe in it,
Mhm.
the process of induction. And that's not that difficult. Okay, let's say
No,
that
it's not. You're right. Mhm.
you and I are the
And you know
masterminds
how you do,
behind.
Peter. You know how they do that. You know how a government does that is by scaring the living shit out of people. That's the first thing, is scare people, terrorize them,
Yeah. Okay.
make them,
You and I.
and then you can mold them into do anything you want them to do.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
have to
You
get
and
them
I are having
here.
a show right
Yeah.
now. We're having 1 million watchers.
Yes.
They're watching us right now. Let's
Mhm.
say. Okay, so let's say that at least a half of that million can be uh, induced
Mhm.
and convinced. At least a half of the million can be convinced in what we induce them to believe, to
Mhm.
believe in. Let's say. So don't turn your laptops off. I didn't want we to lose that half of the million watchers, but
It's
that's the
true.
point.
It's just
So
true. Yeah.
they were asking me, where did those members of the hidden secret governance hell come from? I mean, where do they live?
Mhm.
Do they have a rotund, a round table that they gather around? I mean, do they have a cellar or a basement to dwell in order to correspond? And I said they don't even have to have nothing of it. They right now they have the internet,
All they have to do is control the flow of information, and you don't have to
and this
control
and
too many.
nevertheless,
Yeah.
I'm gonna unveil a little secret to the audience that I'm sure that you're very well aware of. That the that's the the secret and the the knowledge that I've learned and earned from Russian theosophists, and they function in a way of mental synchronicity. What does it mean? That does not implicate the telepathy and telepathic abilities exclusively, but it implies the fact that if I'm able to, let's say, get the proper resonance with your mind, like we're doing right now, right? We're functioning, our brains, our minds are functioning on the same very level, right? The two frequencies, matched, so we've got the resonance, and we function as an egregore. Okay, let's say if we have one or two more of those alike us, that's an egregore, smart and strong enough to induce the other ones. Let's say, because when I send an idea to the brains of another one, and if that idea is put into the right place, like a seed, it will, blossom, and it will, cement over there. So the another individual, the another biosystem is gonna behave in the in concordance and in agreement with the idea that I have sent through the process of mediation, by equalizing the two frequencies, making the resonance between the two mental planes, which become one in that way, in a way. So that's the way how the Russian intelligence service members function. They use touch and eyesight, a glance, or a symbol or a sign, to function. Let's say if I do this, this would mean nothing to the majority of our watchers, but this would mean to you, because you know the semiotic meaning of it.
Just like if I do this right here.
Oh yeah, or that.
Right,
Or that.
right, yeah. Or
So
if
just
I do this, so I stick my hand,
make me
right here,
conclude.
right. I take my picture with my hand.
Oh yeah.
Stuck in my shirt, right? I mean, these
Well,
symbols.
if it's made of hemp, if it's produced of hemp, I agree with it. If it's a hemp shirt,
but these symbols mean something, right?
Yeah,
You're just like,
exactly.
that means something. They mean something.
That means something too.
Yes, it does.
Like the apes, like the monkeys have their own lingo. Like the birds have their own lingo. Like the whales have their own echoes and the sound language. We have our own language too. I'm not claiming that you and I are humans strictly, but let's say that we're gonna we will unveil it to the audience later. But just let me conclude. So if I'm able to persist and to convince another mental plane, another consciousness, he or she is then ready to invest all of its energy, the real estates, the material goods, the wealth and fortune, and to invest it into my idea, into the realization of my idea, into supporting and helping my idea. And that's the way the Russian theosophists work. They put the idea, and then the idea works for them. that somebody has said to me that that's the way of working that is completely unclear and unknown and incomprehensible to us. And I said, no, it's not true. It's comprehensible to me and to you. So it is. That's nevertheless, that's the way I do, at least, and that's the way I'm sure you do too, because I think our books are proof for it.
And they
In a way.
accomplish this. I mean, they're able to plant that seed thought in people's minds by controlling the flow of information. They control all major international media outlets. They control all of them. You know, they do, and then they control the platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and all the rest. They control those as well, and then they can create the algorithms that will block anyone
but
who's trying to speak the truth.
who controls nevertheless? Let's say, let's make it clear.
Let's make some names. Let's throw some names out. I mean, the George Soros.
The names are irrelevant because those are they are the esoteric connoisseurs. So even you and I, okay, we have the audience. We have million people watching us right now in the real time. So there is a certain amount of imposal and influence and influx and impact, definitely a certain amount of impact that we are making on the people right now, at least 20%. So let's catch to those 20%. So let's say if I am esoteric connoisseur, and if I know how the occult things function and how do they mutually deal with the minds, let's say that I can represent somebody who's pulling the nets, from somewhere, especially if I have the global, World Wide Web. So that's the reason why my marital godfather, who I salute now, had said once to me at the table, he said, so therefore, as a conclusion, even you can be a part of the world's or the planetary government in case you've got an email. And I said, I've got it, because if I have an email, I can be anywhere. I can be in Antarctica. I can get there for $2,000, as a tourist, and I can use the internet, and I can convey my idea to the minds of the majority. And even that majority, they are not a group of people. People don't function as a group, not even in a single building, not even in a family. They have to be mentally matched in order to function as a group, right? So it's been already long ago scientifically approved in the sociologic science that there ain't no society, anthropologically speaking, there ain't no such thing like society is. There are individuals, and they organize sometimes to a marital society, or to a gangster society, or to a medical or a scientific or a YouTube or a friendless society, or a partnership like me and you, the three last ones. So they are easy to handle with if you know how to, and you definitely do know. So let me make the point. We are locking down the people, the humanity, because the humanity wants to be locked down. That's a kind of a wrong assumption and a premonition that they have brought as a conclusion. That it's the same like Stalin said, that humans are the cattle which needs to be whipped. So those it's enough to say 100 the vicious and evil grandpas who are getting to the retirement, meaning to the grave, were vicious and jealous because of their old age, and they knew that they were going away. They're going to be flushed away, because the death is their next stage, all right? Because that's inherited to the nature of the human animal. So what did they do? Instead of saying, okay, I'm not going to be vain, I'm going to help the children to grow up and to continue the life on this planet by investing huge amounts of money that I have, let's say Jacob Rothschild or somebody else, I'm going to help the children to continue to make the continuance of the life after my death, after I passed away, but not instead they were vain, which means they were narcissistic, which means they were evil and immature, right? So they have decided to destroy, to eradicate as much as they can, because the second stage is the overcoming of the tyranny, global tyranny, by simple application of the AI. Because, as well as I mentioned in one of the first shows, we're still in the commencing stage, but let's say the very first two, I said if I do have a Facebook, what do I need a government for? I don't need it. I don't have any use for it. War is the largest state on this planet right now. It's Facebook. It has 4.5 billion inhabitants, bigger than China and India altogether. So if I can, and I'm sure I can, arrange everything with you or with a friend of mine who's from Brazil or from India or from Russia or from Canada or from Australia, if I can arrange and make up everything by Facebook, by simple sending messages, I don't need a government and its interference. So that's the ultimate stage of the old primitive survived forms of the communication in the alleged society, because we've said they're only individuals which organize amongst themselves. So that's why I said that the government, meaning the state, and the religion and the hard labor are going to hell. And just regarding the organized religion, and I want to say as a proof that the ministers, the priests, work for the system, which is dying, and it's dying, layer, the bad. I've seen in 2020, when I was writing my book, I've seen a scene which was probably the worst scene within the allegedly said normal conditions. Those were not the normal conditions. But what have I seen? I want to share it with you and with the audience. I've entered the house. It's a large house. So inside the living room, I've seen three individuals. Two elders and their son, who was middle-aged, middle 30s, kneeling down at the floor and praying. They were doing this, praying the Lord. But what was the problem, and why that scene, that imagery was so graphic and so obvious, so odd to see? Because they were convinced that the end of the world is approaching, that the apocalypse is about to happen soon. And why were they convinced in that? Because the church has convinced them to think that way. They were living in a constant sorrow and grief and the inner feeling of their own sinister being and sinfulness and bullshit. And they were realistically totally convinced that the end of the world is approaching, although it was totally unclear, at least to me, what the alleged supposed end of the world would have to be meaning, because the planet Earth is not the only habitable realm. It's not the world. It's a tiny planet. And they call it the world, and nevertheless, it's so tiny that you and I can cross it on a bicycle within a year or something, and they nevertheless call it their world. And the church which represent a tiny amount of individuals on the same planet, is strictly and eagerly supporting them in their own madness and bullshit and stupidity.
Well,
So
fear and terror is the best business. I mean, it's great
oh yeah,
business. I
so
mean, there's
that's
no better
that's why
business
I
than
say that
fear and terror. Yeah.
the church, yeah,
And the church is in the business of
the
fear and
great,
terror.
yeah,
Yeah. And
the great shameful woman, as Voltaire used to
mhm,
call it, and that this is why he was saying we will destroy the great shameful
mhm,
uh, whore in a way because she lies. All
mhm.
right, that's the worst way. That's the worst imagery I could ever possibly see. Why? Because those people, instead of taking the arms, the weapons, and they have the weapons in their house,
Mhm.
instead of conjoining, instead of adjoining and joining to other people, the other individuals in a fertile group, in a gang, in order to oppose the vicious minority, consisted of at most 1,000 lurid individuals. They were kneeling down. They didn't take any weapon in their arms. They were subordinating their will and surrendering their own minds to a god, to what they believed God is.
Mhm.
And they did not know the great wisdom that, if anything is supposed to be called a God or the God, nevertheless, it would definitely and exclusively, it would solely have to, it would must contain the both sides of the coin. If we reduce it, it's a rainbow.
Mhm.
It's a whole lot of
The whole
rainbow.
spectrum.
It's not black and white.
Mhm.
It's a rainbow.
Mhm. So, Peter, I
But
want to get back to something before I lose my train of thought.
and that's a Gnostic.
Is
That's a
it
great Gnostic knowledge. Okay,
mhm,
one for the first, one of the first sessions,
mhm.
maybe.
I agree. So what we are going through right now is over the at least over, especially over the past 2 years with the lockdowns is we're kind of going through like the death throes and the death agonies of government, religion, and the necessity for human labor. And could it even be fair to suggest that AI AI may have even created the lie of COVID-19 in order to accelerate the death agony and the death throes of organized religion, governments, and the necessity for human labor to because it was we needed this lie in order to accelerate the new frontier that is coming with AI
Oh, that's a smart assumption, my
once
friend.
AI eliminates especially the necessity for human labor. Am I fair in summarizing that, Peter, or where am I at with that?
That's a very smart assumption of yours. Let me tell you something. It's I know it sounds so scholarly and so imposing when you say to somebody who's even a few years older than you, let me tell you something. It sounds so proud spirited, although it's not. I really want to share this one with you and with our audience, with each individual one.
Because Peter, I want you to continue that thought, but I'm trying to you want to cut off the hydra at the roots. I mean, and we can I think it's symptomatic. I mean, we're fleshing out the global conspiracy and we're showing all the parts and all the moving parts, and I think that's absolutely necessary. But ultimately, and this also points back to the basic premise of my book is that I want to cut to the root of the problem to figure out just what the hell is going on here, because knowledge is power, and if we can share with the world just what the hell is going on here, and if we can somehow or another with these conversations get to the very root of what's going on with this universal deception and chaos and just absolute insanity. I mean, stomping our feet, flailing our arms, or blaming whoever, various, be it Fauci or Biden or Trump or whoever, or it accomplishes nothing. I mean, we want to get to the root, the essence of what's going on, and then I think we are going to open up a whole new frontier if we
That's
figure out what's
exactly
going on.
where I'm standing,
Yeah, so
bro.
we want to get. The whole point of all these conversations is to get to the very root of just what the hell's going on and what's plaguing this world. our world at least.
And they're arranging the next step
Yes.
after.
Yeah.
Okay. We both know that in every bad there's something good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So following this idea, I just want to say that you're completely right. I don't know if the AI itself has reached the stadium, the stage of being so self-aware that it can handle and maintain the whole lot of process of what we just spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but maybe not. But let's say since the AI has evolved
Mm-hmm.
and developed to such a large extent that the human labor, I'm saying for the millionth time, has
And it
become
needs to be repeated.
oblique and redundant. Yeah,
It's such an important point. It needs to be repeated, Peter.
that's the
That's why
most
I'm glad we're
important
circling
thing.
back to
That
it
is the
because
most.
yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead. But
this is the
what I'm
most.
saying
This
is that
is
I'm glad that we're circling back here because this needs to be
yeah.
repeated. What you're
Because
saying.
it's not inherent, it's the very core, is the essence of the conversation
Yeah.
that we're
Yes.
maintaining right now.
Yeah.
So it has become redundant, bleed to such a way that uh, there's been a moment when somebody or something has had to say to the human individuals, stop,
Mm-hmm.
stop working this way anymore, stop going to your job spots, stop earning salaries and closets and sellers with rats like you who spend some 4 years, or humans like you who spend some 4 years of their life, the most precious years of their best age, in the cellars with colleagues they cannot stand, without oxygen in quantity, in quantums enough to supply your brain. Stop receiving bullshit of the small salary and stay in your home, and somehow you'll probably be able to figure out that there is a large window at your lap, at your desk that you're looking at, and that new window is the window for your new world, meaning large online earnings. I personally know several dozens at least of people who earn even millions of dollars online from their own chair. All right. So they're so moderate and modest, few of them at least. So the chair does not change as their wallet and as their wealth and fortune are rapidly increasing and growing and enlarging. The chair remains the same. They don't want to buy a new chair, a golden one. It remains the same. And focusing on cryptocurrency, which are about, I'm sure that you're loving this moment, that is about to replace and change the normal currencies that we're having like now, like dollar, the US dollar and euro and the British pound, because they become redundant. Okay, let's say in 2018 or 19, I think it's 18, one single Bitcoin was measuring around 230 US dollars. And instead in 2022, now, meaning it estimates around 27 way up to 28 US dollars. So it has enlarged itself, it increased. So not to mention the Ethereum launched by Vitalik Buterin, it's Vitalik Buterin, and the ever-growing, the constantly ongoing and growing cryptocurrencies that are jumping off right now while we are speaking. So the dollar and euro are slowly but surely going to their retirement because I don't need it anymore.
Mhm.
Within the last 10 years of my life, we were barely even seeing the cash, the money, everything that we've had to do, we could do, and we were doing by usage of our credit cards. We didn't even have the necessity to have cash in our hands. So that's the great, switch
So
and
what we're going
improvement.
through, especially over these past 2 years, is the accelerated death throes and death agonies of the old world, and it's being, obviously, it's directly connected with AI and the new world, the new frontiers that we can't even begin to imagine that is going to be available to us once AI again eliminates government, religion, and the human necessity for labor, which is going to happen. It's
Hard labor,
coming.
yeah.
It's here, and it's everything's moving so fast. I mean, it's moving so quickly. I mean, it's really hard to wrap your head around how quickly how rapidly things are moving, how things are
Yes,
progressing,
sir.
especially over the
Yeah.
past 2 years. It's really hard to wrap your head around, and yeah, I
Yeah, I'm
think
so
I
happy
feel
that.
we're getting closer to getting to the root of it, and but yeah, well, I guess I still wrestle with the idea of why is there a need for universal deception? Why do we have to usher in this new world with arguably the greatest lie in human history, and that is the COVID-19 hoax? What is the necessity for a lie to usher in this new world? That's what I can't get my head around that one, Peter. I really can't, and I try to, and I always come up short. But
Okay,
yeah.
because of the due to the necessity for profit, which is
Mm-hmm.
stupid because
Mm-hmm.
Nikola Tesla has already solved that problem by usage and simple application of two of
Mm-hmm.
his patents
Mm-hmm.
and inventions and gadgets, or maybe let's say five of them at most. We can resolve the issue of the energetic supplies to our body cells, right? By using the infinite amounts of the energy present in the ionosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what every serious Tesla researcher knows for sure. So the profit in that way, plundering individuals and sucking their energy dry is stupid. But the let's say the nature of evil, that's one of your interests, and you want
Mm-hmm.
to write a compelling book about the topic. And I'm also very much interested in that because as the constitutional, constitutive part of the existence, it's naturally inherited in the very core of the
Oh, it
existence.
is.
We've
It's
already
inextricably
concluded
interwoven
that.
into the fabric of
So a
existence. Yeah.
tiny part of that evil and the everlasting evil, which is a part of the existence, right, with
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
capitalized E,
Mm-hmm.
has expressed itself and evolved or devolved into the narcissism of the particular grandpas, the individuals. There are certain youngsters among them,
Mm-hmm.
but they wanted to hide because the evil and the narcissism want to play games. They like to
Mm-hmm.
hide. They like to put the masks upon their faces. They like to get hidden. That's why they put the masks
Mm-hmm. Oh, no doubt about it.
onto the
Oh, yeah.
people's
It's
face,
all a
and
ritual.
people
Yeah.
were getting into banks with masks upon
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
faces. I said to a bank, I went into my bank and I said to the bank employee, I've never even dreamed about the day that the day will come when I will enter into the bank wearing a mask
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on my face, and that the day, and nevertheless the day came
Mm-hmm.
true. So the point is that you know yeah, I'm very happy that the dreams of my childhood, from the periods when I was reading the SF novels, are finally about to become the reality, because those books were containing the robots who, I'm not saying which, but who place the humans in their hard labor. And also we can refer to Philip K. Dick, one of your, in my favorite ones, or even Sir Isaac Asimov, you know, and many other ones like Arthur C. Clarke, and even to the Czech writer Karel Čapek, because he's the official founder of the word robota. You know, that means the one who works. You know,
Yeah,
the worker,
I
the
almost think
laborer.
we're coming towards the. I mean, even evil is in the midst of its death, or at least during this one cycle. Whether it's, I think we're coming to the end of what the Hindus refer to as the Sat, or not. Is it not
Oh yeah.
or the is it the Kriya Yuga? I mean, I think we're coming. We're approaching the end of a very dark, evil age, and it's almost like even as we're seeing the final death throes of government, organized religion, and the necessity of human labor, we might be seeing the death throes of evil in this particular cycle, or evil is going to it's reaching its limit, almost like the limit of the speed of light is the limit of the matrix. Evil is reaching a capitulation point where it's gonna be attenuated again in this new world order. Evil's still gonna exist. It's still it's never going anywhere, but it's reaching a capitulation point with evil is experiencing it's a sort of death throes as well before it becomes what I would say maybe even super attenuated once this new frontier arrives with AI. Does that make sense? I mean, I know I'm not. It's a very difficult concept to verbalize, but I feel like evil in its present incarnation, right, in one of its cycles, is realizing that it's losing its grasp as well. Just as our world leaders our people that control the media today are realizing that they are losing a hold. They're losing control of the dissemination of information. I think even evil itself is almost bit off more than it can chew with the COVID-19 hoax and the wearing of the mask and the locking down society to save society. I mean, on the face of it, it's so obviously stupid and dishonest and wrong. But I feel like evil is losing its grasp on our reality as well. And I know there's some. It coincides. It is related to AI. I mean, the fact that AI is here and AI is going to bring this new frontier that we could previously never even begin to imagine. I mean, I think evil itself is senses that it's losing its grasp on our reality, and it's making its final push, its final desperate push to hold on to its footing on the temporal plane of existence. But I think evil itself is senses that it's losing its control too. Are you still there, Peter? I think did we lose some audio? All right, I think we lost, I think Peter's connection was lost, so I'm going to stop this episode for the time being, and Peter and I will pick this up when we come back again. So, all right, Peter, I will talk to you soon. Bye.